Mr. Bobinsky is getting wary of Coraline and offering some peculiar warnings in today's scene dissection. Zdravutsia. I'm McGann, this is the Fangirl, and we're going to have a long discussion on Mr. Bobinsky's entrance into Coraline today. But first, thank you to my wonderful supportive channel members, and if you are able to join, I hope you will. If not, I beg of thee to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel to help give me a boost. And some quick comment appreciation, Moonchild4648 pointed out that if a human eats fairy food, they'll never want human food again because human food is terrible by comparison. And that is extremely interesting when we see Coraline go home in the morning and her mother is asking her to eat or at least take a vitamin. But Coraline has no interest at all. So hey, another notable detail to see the beldam as a fairy. Then Bonbon Edie 5111 said, "The symbols we keep seeing are similar to a fleur-de-lis, and that this symbol was often used in French culture as a mark of death," which certainly makes these icons seem a lot more threatening. You guys, great info. Okay, now into today's scene. Last time we talked about Coraline waking up in the real world and talking to her parents before being brushed off to see Miss Spink and Miss Forcible. And I am saying real world with air quotes around it because I am definitely a firm believer that Coraline never gets home once she enters the other world. So Coraline, for whatever reason, has decided she's going to comply with her mother's wishes and goes outside to visit the basement neighbors. However, Coraline gets distracted as soon as she steps outside because she's knocked over a large stack of packages that have been left on her front porch. And for anyone who missed it before, the mailboxes are listed as A, B, and C, so the Pink Palace presumably does not have a fourth apartment like it does in the book. But just looking at these packages, there's a lot of information here. First of all, please notice the painstaking level of detail where all of these packages have different handwriting. Not a single printed label among them. And 9752 is in fact Ashland, Oregon's real zip code. Although all of the street addresses just say rural delivery. And we see one package says S.A. Bobinsky, meaning his first name must start with an S, and I believe it's Sergey for some reason, and his middle name starts with an A. Also, the only return address I can make out is the Fighting Cheese from Boomer, Australia. It is not a real business, I checked, but since all of these packages seem to have USA written on them, that means that they're all from out of the country. And that looks fairly well confirmed as Coraline flips through the packages. One is definitely from Russia, but I cannot see enough of the label to guess at the third return address. And now is when Coraline finally gets a good whiff of the packages and she has a mild flip out saying that they stink. But as Coraline turns her head in disgust, she notices a handmade wooden arrow that says Bobinsky there, pointing up the rickety attic stairs. Now, I do not blame the postal worker for not going up the steps to deliver because the mailboxes are on the front porch, so that's where the mail goes. But Coraline is in the middle of avoiding her assignment to visit the old ladies, so she's more than happy to go up the death trap looking stairs to have a mini delivery adventure. Now, as Coraline reaches the top of the stairs, Bobinsky's front door area is very telling. First of all, as this was originally an attic with no outside entry, this fancier looking door had to be an add-on. And it is strange because the actual doorway is more narrow than the windows. Also, instead of a doorbell, Bobinsky has a metal dinner bell style contraption, and he has some dingy looking rugs on the great platform, along with this weathered box that I can't read because it's in Russian. Then the flag above the doorway is also a lot more tattered looking once you get closer to it, which parallels Bobinsky himself. When we see him during the move-in, he's on the roof and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this acrobat. But once we get closer to seeing Bobinsky in real life, he looks like a mess. And I don't know if Bobinsky could really hear that metal doorbell being rung, but Coraline can't seem to reach it anyways, so she knocks on the door. But no one answers. So Coraline starts shouting at the door, indignantly asking if she should just leave the mail out there. And then she sort of falls through the door so that we viewers can get a look at how Bobinsky lives. And this is also helpful later when we see the other Bobinsky's living situation. It's much different. But the real Bobinsky has a bunch of barrels, a cage, a ladder to nowhere, some random unmatching chairs, clothing hung up to dry, including his jockstrap, ew, and the personal effects on the shelf look like nesting dolls, a strongman style trophy, and some other bits that are too generic to make out. But oh, on the ground there is a painting and it's half covered with a red cloth. And that looks like Bobinsky's mustache and possibly a thinner body on him with a normal skin tone. Now, the books directly tell us that Mr. Bobo is from an old circus family, and while it is implied in the movie, it's not quite as direct about it, and you could just as easily believe that Bobinsky is nuts. So that painting is extremely interesting, and it tells us that Bobinsky has not always been a blue man, and he does vaguely look like he's dressed up as a circus ringmaster. So his backstory is here, but it's extremely well hidden in the background. As we pan over, we also see a live chicken, lots of beets, a broom, and a coal-burning furnace stove that has something overflowing on top. This appears to be Bobinsky's entire apartment space, and there's not even a bed here. Sincerely, this man needs a social worker to help him live better, because these living conditions are horrendous, especially for someone who's probably a senior citizen. But where are the mice he's training? We don't hear so much as a squeak as Coraline looks around. Although, to be fair, we really don't get the most thorough look inside that apartment because Bobinsky swings in off of nothing because the ledge of the house does not go over that far. Coraline was just shown walking with no roof above her there. And Bobinsky really acts like a creeper and accuses Coraline of trying to spy on his famous jumping mouse circus, which that has to be some mild narcissism on Bobinsky's part, because deep down he knows that he's a washed up has-been. He just doesn't want to admit to it. But voila! Here is our first good look at Bobinsky up close. And may I say that the detail that sticks out and bugs me the most is how dirty and yellowed his muscle shirt is. Again, this man is delusional. He's wearing a style of shirt that's designed to show off your body when he's so round in the stomach that he's bulging out of the bottom of this shirt. And as we just saw, he has to hand wash all of his clothing. Oh, I bet it was his clothes that he was boiling on the stove because I didn't see any washing machine up there. But this man is filthy and sporadically hairy with a mustache so wispy that it's kind of gross to look at it. I know we're midway through the 2020s now, and this is a very dated phrase, but looking at Bobinsky, it makes me think of the old saying, he could really use a woman's touch. Oh yeah, and let's not skip over the fact that Bobinsky is light blue, like he is some Corpse Bride Land of the Dead character. And there's a lot of theories as to why his skin is blue. I've certainly had several of my own, but I believe the intention has to do with Bobinsky's metal, which is from Chernobyl cleanup. So between the hair loss and the blue skin, I believe he has some radiation poisoning, which may also be messing up his brain too. But Bobinsky reaches out and snatches the cheese packages from Coraline and then smells them, acting like he's inhaling roses, which might be because Bobinsky has extremely bloodshot eyes. You can only notice when he's looking to the sides, but this guy is either extremely high high or he hasn't slept in a really long time. And while either explanation works, they both come with their own set of questions and speculations. However, since I can't yet pinpoint an answer, let's just cover the thing that they have in common. Whether it's narcotics or a lack of sleep, Bobinsky is trying to escape something. Either he fears something getting him when he dozes off, or he needs to zonk out and hide from reality. And whichever option you prefer, it does support my theory that Coraline never goes home again and is currently in the other world right now. If she's been moved from the Beldam's lair to the Limbo Pink Palace, then this is the real Mr. Bobinsky, and he may know that something isn't right with the reality that he's living in, but he also has no way to fix it. So he moves around in a constant state of fear. But because Bobinsky really doesn't have a way to identify what is wrong with the reality he exists in, he focuses all of that paranoid energy towards the mice, which could very well be his imaginary friends here. And when Coraline introduces herself, Bobinsky says that he is known as the amazing Bobinsky. And as he tries to show off his acrobatic skills, we see his right arm quivering under his own weight. But he really perks up when he talks about himself, and he tells Coraline to call him Mr. B because he already knows that he's amazing. Then we get a decent look at his legs to notice that his right knee is bandaged up, so he's not letting himself rest and heal. It's almost as if he believes he's on call to go back into the circus life at any given moment, so he's afraid to let himself go soft while not realizing what he really looks like now. And Mr. B does another physics-defying move where he throws himself off the balcony and somehow ends up behind Coraline when there are no wires and no bars here to make that possible. I think Mr. B used to hang out with Euphaba because he's defying gravity. Ha 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 ha. Then, for absolutely no reason, Mr. Bobinsky opens up to Coraline and says that he is using this strong oompa oompa music, but the mice only play, yes, as in play their own instruments, toodle toot, and it's nice, but it's not amazing. And the bloodshot eyes feel so highlighted here. I'm really getting more and more skeptical that these mice exist at all. Like there's something Mr. B saw in the other world and now he's convinced that they're real in the reality he's in now. But Mr. B says he's switching to a stronger cheese to hopefully solve the mouse problem, offering zero explanation as to how that's supposed to work. Is it supposed to be like liquors where they can be so strong that people say that'll put hair on your chest? The cheese is so strong it will make the mice play the deep oompa oompa songs. See, do not try to tell me that we're in the actual real world right now unless you can make sense of anything that Bobinsky is going on about. Then Bobinsky hands Coraline a beat, calls her Caroline, and kicks in his door to slip away. Coraline then tosses the beat, gets her pruning shears out of the now damaged porch, and is going about her business ground level when Mr. B comes back out and flags her down, jumping from the attic level and barely missing getting neutered by the pointy tool. And Bobinsky really looks rattled here. He says that the mice have a message for Coraline to not go through the little door. And he's looking around before he speaks as if he knows the gravity of what he's saying. That the beldam has ears everywhere and this could get him in trouble. It almost reminds me of Wybie wringing his hands and always looking around to see if he can talk more freely. And this mouse message makes Coraline gasp and ask for clarification. But Bobinsky quickly brushes the whole statement off and says that his mice get a little mixed up sometimes, implying that they can be crazy. The mice can be crazy, not him. And so it must be nothing because the mice even got her name wrong. They called her Coraline instead of Caroline. And Mr. B walks off saying that he might be working the mice too hard and that's why they're messing up. Okay, that whole moment gives me the idea that the paranoia and the lack of sleep and looking around before speaking is Bobinsky knowing that there's danger, but somehow having his memory erased so that he has this sense of dread, but he doesn't know exactly why. The last moments of this scene show Coraline using the rusty shears to cut down a suitcase that's tied to the top of the Volkswagen Beetle. And in there, we see that Coraline has her fancy driver's hat and nothing else in that hand-painted suitcase. I don't think any of these details are particularly important with the hat. It seems strange that they didn't bring this suitcase in before and that they left it out to the elements and that there's only a hat in it, but it never comes back up. At least it makes for a beautiful movie. Then Coraline saunters over to the basement apartment stairs to go see Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, which will be what we cover next week. So what are your thoughts on Bobinsky, his living situation, his appearance, and his mental state? I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.